hello. I'm Ellen DeGeneres, this year's 2012 ArtCon convention host. With me, I have 4 artists from the 20th century architecture movement. First off, we have Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright. Next, we have Miss Mylin, followed by Mr. Ian Pei, and finally, Mr. Renzo Pino. Now, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and Mr. Wright, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
What sparked your interest in architecture?
Well, I grew up with a lot of encouragement from my mother to become an architect. She put me into a kindergarten, and that kindergarten's curriculum was based on these building blocks. With those building blocks, I built many geometrically shaped 3D houses, and from that moment, I knew I wanted to be an architect.
Interesting, Miss Mylin.
During my childhood, my father was the dean of the Ohio University College of Fine Arts, and he was a ceramist. So during my free time, I would always help him with his ceramics. From an early age, I always excelled in math. And my first project that really sparked my career was the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which I accomplished as a class project when I was 21 at Yale University.
That's amazing. Mr. Ian Pei, how about you?
Well, one day my colleague, John Portman, had talked to me about his desire for doing something similar to the East Building. And I replied to him, just once, I'd like to make as much money as you do. So I work towards that goal with architecture. I also have an interest in altering the way buildings are constructed so they adapt to human needs rather than having humans adapt to the way buildings are constructed.
Cool. Mr. Renzo Pino.
Well, when you grow up in a family of architects, it's not really a decision of what you want to be when you grow up. So let's just say when I told my father I wanted to go into the family business and be an architect, it wasn't really much of a shocker.
Interesting. Now, Mr. Wright, what do you feel is the most important aspect to include in your architecture?
Well, as the leader of the prairie movement, I like my buildings to look a lot like prairies. I use lots of horizontal lines, flat roofs, and natural materials.
Cool.
Thanks.
Miss Mylin?
Well, I like to keep my architecture simple, yet I want it to evoke emotions into people when they see and relate to my memorials. As you can also see from my works, I also like to add quotes from people who really had an impact on the event to make it more memorable and personable.
And Mr. Ian Pei, how about you?
Well, I see my style as more of a modernistic style. I strive to combine traditional architectural elements with progressive designs to create complex geometric design.
And Mr. Renzo Pino?
Well, I believe that I tried to go beyond the clash of creative and technology. And I think by using my craftsmanship and the latest technology, I was able to show the latest modern techniques in my architectural buildings.
Okay, now you all seem like very smart people. Well, most of you. Okay. Now, what are you guys most famous for, Mr. Wright?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of my building, Falling Water. It's called Falling Water because it's built over a waterfall. I wanted to preserve the environment and integrate this building with its natural surroundings, so I built it over the waterfall. It was built from 1935 to 1937 by my very determined construction workers.
Miss Mylin?
I am most famous for my Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which is currently standing in Washington, D.C. My other works, like the Civil Rights Memorial and the Confluence Project, are also very famous.
Mr. Ian Pei?
My most impressive work ended up being one of my numerous museums, the East Wing of the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. It was built all throughout the years of 1968 to 1978.
Oh, yes, the last one. Mr. Renzo Pino?
Well, my most famous building is the Pompidou Center in Paris. It takes its form from a metaphor of the cultural machine.
Okay, thank God. We're done. Thank you for joining us for the 2012 ArtCon convention. We'll see you next year. Hopefully not, but goodbye.